So now we're at part 5 of Day of the Dead, the experience. I went back to Ohio, um, full of so many incredible memories, mostly fantastic, one negative one. I told my colleagues what the experience was like. I told the boys I work with what the experience was like. Everybody loved it. They just loved they said, someday you should write about this. You really should write about this. And actually, I did. I wrote a piece called 2 Days with the Dead, sort of like what I just told you. And it ended up on a website, I believe in Australia, called Page of the Dead. I have since tried to find that manuscript. I don't know where it is because I'd love to read it again. And if I'm not mistaken, several people put it on their websites as well. So if anybody listening to this knows where I can find a copy of what I wrote way back in '84, I'd love to read it again. So after the thing was done, I started checking in with Mike Gornick, who kind of became a friend of mine, to see where Day of the Dead was. And he told me, man, we're still in post-production. We'll let you know. And my friend Rick and I got invited to the screening, a press screening in Cincinnati, Ohio. I think it was called the Skywalk Theater in '85. And it would have been probably late winter '85, maybe spring. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. But, and of course, I'm not sure if I'm going to even be in the film, in the final cut. I have no clue. I don't even know what the film's about. I don't even know the plot. I just know the parts that I was in. And previous to that, I have to admit something. I got to see part of that film. And I will not name names and I will not name a store title, but I found a VHS, a bootleg of the last 3 scenes in Day of the Dead for sale. I looked at this guy, I didn't even know him. I said, what is this? He goes, somebody did some video of Day in production. And I think without any kind of special effects added or audio, that's what that might be. It might include that. I go, oh, okay. So I bought the VHS. It was $40. And I got to see with a different soundtrack about 5 minutes of the film, including one part where I was in. I went, oh, cool. It was worth $40. I don't have that anymore. I wish I still did. I got rid of all my VHS stuff of George before I moved on in life to a different, type job. So we went, and every single thing I was in remained in that film. And my heart started pumping as I began to realize where I'm going to be at and what's going to happen. And, everybody in the theater laughed during the dog tag scene. And I'm sitting there, and I want to stand up and say, hey, guys, that's me. But I didn't. I'm not one of those kind of people. Absolutely not one of those kind of people. And we left, and Rick said, we're there, man. We did it, And I waited anxiously for the film to come out. And then I'm going to get emotional again. I'm sorry, but this is what's going to happen next. So the film came out in '85. It was technically an X-rated film. There was no rating. But in my community, somehow, they got a print of that film and had me as a guest speaker, and articles about me being in the film in that town there was a lot of them. And they had a giant, I put the press kit, a poster. And by the way, the poster, if you own an original Day of the Dead poster, those are pretty collectible because at our theater, they didn't even get a one sheet for Day of the Dead. There was no one sheet. So I gave them one of something I had, which I'm not even sure how I got the one sheet. I don't know if it was sent to me with the press kit. I just don't remember. Because remember, at the time, or maybe you didn't know, I was a film critic as well. So, which is why I believe all of this happened in the first place. So I gave them my one sheet under the instructions. Be very careful with it because I don't think these are easily obtainable. So there were kids sneaking into the theater to watch it. I mean, I was kind of a celebrity in that small community as a film critic anyway, but now being in Day of the Dead. So I asked my parents, my mom passed away 3 years ago, and my stepdad, if they would go see the movie that I was in. I was very proud of it. I wanted them to see it. And being the wonderful mom and the wonderful stepdad that they were and are, they went to see it. And the theater actually opened for us early, 11 a.m., so my parents could watch the film with me. Now, I look back on this and go, oh my God, my mom must have cringed at that language. My stepdad must have cringed at the violence, and they did. And I remember my mom, during some of the gorier scenes, looked at my stepdad and go, Kenny, look at how they did this. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And my stepdad goes, just tell me when he's on the screen. I can't even look at this because he was totally turned off by the amount of gore in Day of the Dead. And my mom, bless her heart, just was she knew I was excited, so she was excited. And the scene comes with me with the dog tags and all that kind of stuff. And my parents are dead silent, no pun intended, as this is on the screen. And my stepdad goes, is it over? I go, yeah, it's almost over. I don't think my family was very proud of me for being in Day of the Dead. I don't think they were. They saw it as a disgusting, shocking, horrifying movie. But I remember on the way back, before they dropped me off at the group home I worked at still, my mom said, that was very interesting. I bet you are really proud of yourself. And I go, Mom, I can't even begin to tell you how I feel right now. And thank you guys for being willing to watch that film with me, because that meant a lot. I don't think they know how much that meant. It really did mean a lot to me. And anyway, after that, I stayed in touch with Mike. And as a gift, Mike sent me, and I don't own it anymore, about 75 minutes of the making of Day of the Dead, because there was going to be a documentary done. It was never released. And part of that material would appear as part of the supplements in various versions of Day of the Dead, special editions on DVD, Laserdisc, Blu-ray, I think even in 4K. I think those, and some of that stuff is of me looking disgusted as I, hold on to my side, showing my friend. The television show West 57th Street, which was a news magazine, you can see those shots. They used it, and Mike sent that stuff to me as a gift, and we stayed in touch. And of course, from there, it got crazy. I was asked to write and direct the Night of the Living Dead documentary. I worked with John A. Russo Jack, on the Zombie Jamboree, which is another story. Just a lot of stuff. And when George passed away, I remember getting a text. I was working with Indian kids, Indian boys in Arizona at the time as a dorm parent. And the boys already knew how much I loved George and his films. They had already seen what I could show them of Night, Dawn, and Day, and Creepshow, and Martin, and Night Riders. And I couldn't show them any nudity, but the parents were fine with the gore. So they got to see a lot of gore, but they just laughed. By that time, kids were so almost acclimated to gore, and what they were seeing in Day, they don't realize how realistic and how fantastic that was. Those little Indian kids loved Bub. They laughed. At my part, they just said, Mr. Brown, there you are. And it was a great experience. And I miss very much that time of my life. Mom was still alive, and I was still, I was doing what I really loved doing, and that was working with kids. I wasn't a film critic anymore. I think I was writing possibly for online, if I remember right, a thing called Media Unleashed. Again, it's kind of, I don't remember for sure, or Blackest Heart Media, maybe I wrote for them. I just don't remember. Film Threat, I know I wrote for them for a while. But so I would show them stuff, and they ate it up. And I got out the press kits, and I got all the stuff I still owned, and they were just they just couldn't believe it. And they would find Day of the Dead back at the reservation and would show it to their parents. They go, "That's your dorm parent?" And the parents would laugh, the grandparents would laugh, because a lot of my boys didn't have parents; they had grandparents raising them. These were Apache kids, and on a reservation. So more would happen later. More would happen later. And eventually, I'm trying to remember how this, I got to be, I would show them different things and sort of share the experiences I've shared with you. And they decided they wanted to make a movie and just all that stuff, did the documentary. A lot of stuff came from that. Did Zombie Jamboree with John Russo. That was another experience, another story I could tell, which I won't. And just so much stuff happened. So I honestly, to be fair, I don't exactly remember when George passed away. I'm going to take a shot at this, and I hope I'm right. 2017. Honestly, I don't remember because I'm not scripting any of this. I'm laying in bed with my phone. So I think it was 2017. And I got a text. It was on a Sunday or a Saturday. I don't remember, from my friend, also a filmmaker, T. Michael Conway, who did a film called June 9, and also Pig, which I hope you guys get to see sometime because it's quite good. And he texted me and said, George died. I didn't know what he was talking about. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then I said, George who? He goes, George Romero. I didn't get teary-eyed. I didn't cry. I just sat down in a chair and I was numb. I knew George had some health problems. I remember on the set of Day with him with a lot of lollipops and a lot of jawbreakers and things in his mouth because, excuse me, he had stopped smoking. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know he had quadruple bypass surgery. I didn't know any of that at the time. And anyway, this would have been after Survival of the Dead, of course. And by the way, of George's films, the Apache Boys, and they were ranging in age from 8 to 14, loved Survival of the Dead. I don't know what it was about that film that they loved, but they did. I think they liked. Now, I didn't show them like full versions of George's films, with the exception of maybe possibly Creepshow. They saw all of it because I still had to be careful. They never saw Bruiser. They never saw There's Always Vanilla or Jack's Wife, nothing of that stuff. I think they saw Creepshow. They saw part of Martin, all of Night, most of Dawn, most of Day. And then I'm trying to remember. I think they saw all of Survival, all of Diary. I don't think they ever saw Land. I don't think so. But they love Survival of the Dead. So they were coming back they would go home on weekends, and then they're coming back on Sunday. And I think that's when he must have died on a Sunday, or Saturday, I don't remember for sure. But when the boys came back, I told them that George had passed away. And they go, the man that put you in his movie? And they looked really sad. I think it's because they knew I was. And I remember one person texting me and saying, hey, man, do you need to talk? Are you okay? And I thought, guys, I wasn't George's friend. I sure wish I was. I just had the privilege of getting to work with him more than once. And that's all I was. And that's all I did. And later when I watched the ceremony at the cemetery in Evans City, I think. I got very emotional watching George's friends like Russ go up there and talk and reminisce. And I thought, I am one of the luckiest people in the world to understand what a great man George was, and frankly is. And thank you for listening to all of this. There's more I could tell. Maybe someday I'll get invited to one of these conventions where I can tell stories about my involvement with Night and not Dawn. I wish I'd been involved with Dawn, but that's my story about Day of the Dead. So take care of yourselves, and as George always said, stay scared.